Hello, everybody. This is Sue Frederick, and I want to have a mystical conversation with all of you, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. These are the best conversations that humans ever have because we lift above our stories, our ego mind, and really look at life from the soul's perspective, that place of divine inspiration. I am an author, a lifelong intuitive, a master numerologist, an ordained unity minister, and a soul regression therapist. If you want more information about my books, it's all on SueFrederick.com. But today I am so honored because I have a friend to introduce you to, and she is so amazing. Her name is Michelle Clare. She's a certified medium, angel intuitive, spiritual coach, energetic healer, intuitive life coach, and 3-time near-death experiencer. 3 times. And she receives messages from loved ones who have crossed over, as well as angels and life guides. In a span of 11 years, she had these 3 near-death experiences. The first was in April of 2000, the second in May of 2006, and a monumental life-changing event in a brain injury in November 1st of 2011. Shortly after that life-altering event, she started receiving information for other people from their loved ones who had transitioned. All 3 NDEs were a reminder of an unconditional love and connection that surpasses our earthly life. Welcome, Michelle. I love you, love you, love you.
No, I love you so much too. I'm so excited to be here with you, Sue. What an honor.
So before we talk about how much fun we just had at the IONS conference, I want you to tell your story. So why don't you start with maybe your first near-death experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So that one happened in April of 2000. And at that time, I was in the hospital with my sister-in-law. She was having a baby that day, so I had gone to visit. And her RN was actually my friend from high school. So I was standing in the hallway talking to her RN, and I just had a massive seizure. I had never had one before and never had one since. I remember opening my eyes, and I'm in this beautiful white room where the walls are alive and breathing, and each molecule in them is radiating light and love. And even though they're alive and moving, they also seem solid. Mm-hmm. I noticed that I am laying with my head in my grandma's lap, and my grandma had passed a couple years before this. Mm-hmm. And she is just looking down at me so sweetly, just the brightest, youngest version of her that I can remember. And as I'm laying here, just soaking it in, no time, unconditional love, truly this blissful element. There's nowhere that I'd rather be, right there. I noticed there's this amazing angel standing next to my grandma, and this angel is about 12 feet tall. She is massive, has a female energy or female presence around her. And at that moment, I am really thinking, oh, I want to see her wings. I want to see her feather wings. So I go to look for these feather wings, and I realize they're actually made of light, and they are iridescent and translucent, and they're moving and waving and almost spanning eternity. It was so magnificent. And then at that point in time, I'm thinking in my head, and I say, what is your name? And she answers me. She says, my name's Madeline, and I'm one of your guardian angels. I was really surprised. I knew nothing about telepathic communication at that point in my life. But I just was drawn into her. And the fact that my grandmother was right there holding me, it was the most beautiful experience. So as I'm laying here soaking this all up, all of a sudden I hear them yelling, code, 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 and I'm back in my body because I had quit breathing, already in the hospital, quite convenient for all of that. Coming in was hard and heavy. I felt like I just got dropped about 5 stories back into the most dense energy I can remember feeling. And I remember thinking my arm felt like it weighed 500 pounds. You know, I'm 5 feet tall. I don't have that big of arms, right? But my arm, just trying to lift it, took an enormous amount of energy because I went into such a dense energy here on the earth realm.
Mm. So what did you feel afterwards? Did you feel that you wish you were still there, or what was it like the next couple of days, for example?
Yeah, so they actually ended up admitting me into the hospital because they wanted to try to find the cause of the seizure, which they did not. And for me, I just remember coming back feeling more loved than I had ever felt in my life. And I had grown up feeling loved, so it wasn't that this was foreign to me, but I was loved immensely. I was loved beyond words. And I had this knowing and this understanding about it, that truly there were no words that could express it without watering it down.
That's beautiful. And how did that change your life, or did it?
Well, it did a little bit. I mean, I realized angels are real. I realized my grandma somehow knew I was coming, so she must have a psychic ability where she was, right? So it did open me up more to things that I had already wondered about or maybe believed in. And then at the same time, I said, okay, well, that was an amazing experience. I wouldn't even call it a near-death experience because I didn't have those words in my vocabulary. I
Right.
just knew I had an experience. And so after that, I just kind of learned to navigate around it. Really, I think I maybe only shared it with 1 or 2 people, and it probably took me a few weeks to even feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. It's so familiar to hear that, because I'm sure you've heard that from many other NDE experiencers where they say, I didn't even talk about it for a long time because I didn't even have words for it.
Mhm.
So then tell us about the next one.
Okay, so the next one happened 6 years later. Only you and I would be sitting here laughing, talking about this. Oh,
That's
tell me
right.
about your
That's
next
right.
time you died. Okay. So the next one happens in April of 2000, no, May of 2006. I had my son, my third and last child, on April 1st. And then I had many complications with him. So for the next 6 weeks, I was in the hospital about 4 of those weeks. I'd be in 5 days, they'd send me home. I'd be back in 5 more days. It was just this long process. And finally, they decided if they did a DNC, which is where they clear out the uterus, that everything would be fine. I would be able to get out of the hospital and go live my life, which sounded like a really great option. So I definitely agreed to that. The night before, I had this rock or this pit in my stomach, and I absolutely knew I should not do this. I did not know why. I just thought I shouldn't do this. But they made it so easy. They said it was going to be 45 minutes and then I could go back to my normal life, right? So I went ahead and ignored those gut instincts and went in for surgery the next morning. I do remember counting backwards for the anesthesiologist, and I had had anesthesia before. And when I have it, it's usually just a blank. It's a nothingness. I'm not dreaming. There's nothing. But I remember counting backwards for him. And then the next thing I know, my beautiful white German Shepherd named Tahoe, who had passed a couple years before, walks into the operating room, lays her head on my gurney, looks at me. She is just smiling and glowing and young and healthy, and we are gone. And we are on the most amazing beach. And on this beach, there are colors that I've never seen in my human form before, smells, sounds, everything is literally radiating light and love. Every drop of water in the ocean, every piece of sand, every cell and every flower. It's not even the flower, it's every cell in every flower. It truly, and it lights up from within. So to me, it's similar to when you look at a tree and the sun's just right and it seems to be kind of glowing from within. That was how it was, except it's just this radiant beauty. And so I'm on this beach with my beautiful dog. Her energy, she feels like she's about 2 years old. She looks healthy. We're communicating telepathically. She's so happy I'm there. And we are just running on this beach, and we are running and we are running. And I noticed at some point, I'm not getting hot. I'm not getting tired. I'm not getting thirsty. Timelessness. in this moment, I really realized the only thing there was each step and each breath. I wasn't worried about anything before it or anything after it. And it was the most present experience I've had in this lifetime. And in this, there's the unconditional love and the bliss and all of these amazing things. And here's a little funny side note. I actually hate to run. So I tell people if they see me running to call 911, that is not me going for a jog. So here I am in my near-death experience running on the beach with my dog, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And as I'm here with her, all of a sudden, I can feel my son, who was at home and 6 weeks old at this time, calling to me because he was scared. He knew I was getting ready to leave. And I did not know before this that our soul could be in more than one place at a time, but it can be. And so there was a piece of me on the beach with my dog and this part of me that went to my son. And I remember feeling his terror that I was leaving him and he had just shown up, you know? So I said to him, I said, I will find a way to stay. And I didn't know what to do. So I started praying and I started saying, I need help. It's not my time. My kids still need me. I'm not ready yet. And the next thing I know, I'm immediately back in the operating room. Jesus comes in with the most beautiful energy. But like my best friend, there was no part of the Catholic girl in me that felt like I needed to like get on my knees and worship him and make the sign of the cross. He just came in of like, I'm your best friend. I'm here to help you. And I remember the operating room lighting up with this golden white light. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up in post-op and my 45-minute procedure turned into a 3.5-hour emergency surgery because they had ruptured my uterus in 2 places and missed my artery by 1 millimeter.
Unbelievable. That is the most amazing story. Do you believe that that was a soul exit choice point, that you were intending maybe to stay in the divine until your son called you?
Yes, absolutely. I actually even had the emergency surgeon came into my room a couple days later to check on me and said to me, Miss Michelle, there must have been someone watching over you that day because you should not be here. And I thought, wow, that was big for him to say.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how did that affect you afterwards?
Right. So that, was very challenging in the sense that once again, I didn't really talk about this. I had this awareness. I still did not know the term near-death experience. So I was having experiences, but I did not know what they were. It opened up my heart in the fact that it was like, oh my gosh, Jesus really does love me. Jesus is my buddy. I can call Jesus. He's going to come help. And that my dog was in heaven. There were so many beautiful things that came out of that. But then I came back to my physical body, which had a lot of trauma. And it took me 4 months to even get back to 75–80% of being able to function. I had a 5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and an infant. So I actually really compartmentalized that. Like I knew this happened, but I had no way to navigate it. And life was calling and life was hands-on.
Yeah. Well, there's no time when you're the mother of young kids and a new baby. It's like God could be talking to you and you'd be like, no, sorry, I got to go change a diaper.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a little bit of what happened to me.
Okay. And then the next NDE.
Yes. Well, for those of you who like numbers, Sue, 11111 is the date of this NDE.
Very good. Well, let me just interject that as my sacred numerology peeps know, I do numerology, and Michelle is the Gemini double 11 master soul. That's her birth path, the double 11, which is so sacred, so connected to the divine realms. I mean, it took 3 NDEs maybe for her to start doing her spiritual work, but her soul was determined that she was going to change her life and become who she became. All right, so continue with the third one.
Yes, well, thank you for that. So on 11111, there's a couple 11s in there, right? I have 14-foot ceilings in my house. So I have about 12 feet off the ground, battery operated candles, and every night they turn on and glow and it's beautiful. And about once a month I had to change the battery. So at this point in time, my kids are 5, 8, and 10. And the younger two are home with me, my 5 and 8-year-old, and my 10-year-old is at an after-school program. So I said to the younger two, as soon as I get done putting this battery back up in here, we're leaving to go get your sister. I remember climbing to the top of the ladder. I remember feeling it start to shift. And I thought, oh, this is going to hurt. And the next thing I know, I am ripped out of my body, not in a painful way, but in a fast way. And I am turned around and I am facing my body in the ladder suspended in the air. And I'm literally in this point where time is frozen. And I notice I'm standing with these three people. And they are so nice and so kind and so loving. And I've never met them before, but they feel like family. They feel like friends. So I'm standing with an Asian man, a Hawaiian man, and an Egyptian woman. And they look at me and they say, what would you like to do? Would you like to stay or would you like to go? And I am trying to understand. I'm again in this blissful, unconditional love. I'm literally trying to figure out, how do I have forever to make this decision when I know my body's going to hit the floor in about a second, right? Because they were not rushing me at all.
The time and space continuum that is not linear.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So the pivot point of my entire life happens in the moment that time is standing still. Right. And as I'm looking at my body and the ladder in the air, I see this beautiful angel come in dressed in this deep red and gold. And as I see this angel, I absolutely know, oh, this angel is here to either take me home or to shift something so that I can stay. It's just a knowing, because this is all telepathic again, or energetic. And at that point in time, I can see my younger two kids in the kitchen. And darn it, those kids, no.
They pulled you back.
They pulled me back. I saw those kids and I said, I need to stay. And in the moment that I made this decision, I was downloaded with a bunch of information. Okay, but you've got to go back and you've got to do your mediumship now. And you've got to do it in the way that only you can do it. There are so many mediums, but we're all individual.
Yes.
I was told that my marriage probably wouldn't survive. And I was just given a bunch of information. And then the next thing I know, and I don't actually remember this part, so this is what I have pieced together since then. So I fall, I hit the back of my head on the corner of my granite island. So I have a 5.5-inch skull fracture, a brain bleed. I lost my taste, my smell, my equilibrium, but I survived the fall by 1/2 inch. I missed my brainstem by half.
So that 1/2 inch was being decided by you and the three beings on your way down from the ladder.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then how did that change your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, some people have near-death experiences and they come back miraculously healed. I have them and I come back with a lot of physical trauma that's going to take years to work through. So I need to get on the other path where you can just come back miraculously healed too. But with that, so there were a couple of things. So number one, I actually came back with so much. I had a traumatic brain injury. Literally, I was in the hospital. I was in ICU. I was there for over a week. There was just so much physical damage that I had to work through. So it literally, I still go to cranial sacral therapy. So this has been 12 years now. But I had to learn, I actually couldn't even sit up. I couldn't even raise my head. So there was a lot of stuff I had to work through physically to even get back to being able to function. And I did not know at that time I was standing with those 3 life guides. Once again, I didn't understand near-death experiences. I'd never heard the term life guides. I just knew these were some amazing people who were helping me make this decision. And I also had this idea that, oh my gosh, at some point I'm going to have to do this mediumship. But I didn't know how that was going to come together. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I was just lucky if I could walk down the hall without bouncing off the walls because my equilibrium was so off. I was like a ping pong ball trying to get down the hall.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So today, how many years are we past that experience now?
12.
12 years. You are a well-known, well-loved, well-respected psychic medium. And I'm so blessed because not only do you live here in Phoenix, where I live now, But you and I got to spend 3 days together at the International Association of Near-Death Studies conference in Washington, D.C. just a couple weekends ago. And that was a complete divine order moment for me, because even though I knew of you and I knew that you presented with Helping Parents Heal, it's almost like we were presenting at the same time all the time at that conference, and we never got to cross paths, you know. But it was in my head that someday I really wanted to get to know you. And then I had heard that you had had a devastating loss recently. And so I was thinking, gosh, I saw her name on the IONS conference. I wonder if she's coming. And I'm sitting in the lounge the first morning of being at the conference, and around the corner comes Michelle and sits down in the empty chair beside me and starts telling me her story of this recent loss. And I think I've never loved anybody as much as I've loved you in that whole weekend. And I know part of it was because of the spirit of the person you're grieving for coming through me to you. Do you want to talk about that loss that you experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. So very challenging. On August 10th, my significant other chose to take his life. And it was earth-shattering. There were no red flags. We've spoken to his ex-wife and kids and sister, and he and I were in a great place. And so, yeah, trying to navigate that, the unexpected loss and the loss by choice that he chose to leave.
So as you and I processed all that all weekend, it was like a nonstop soul to soul conversation with us. And Gary was even coming through and like giving me things to say to you and share with you. And, you know, you and I would go back and forth between, oh, I feel all this love from him for you, and then to, but why? You know, and that's really how humans respond to that situation. So what has been your journey of just surviving, really? It's only been a few weeks. Like,
Yeah.
how would you say you're navigating this?
Probably like every human, the best I can, minute to minute, hour to hour, depending on the day, right? In the beginning, I had a dear friend whose son had transitioned from brain cancer not too long ago. And she was one of the first people to really speak into my life. And the first thing she said to me, which has given me a solid foundation for this, was, Michelle, do not go down the rabbit holes. Do not do the what if, should have, could have, would have game. And that has been such a gift. And it's a conscious decision that whether we lost someone to cancer or to a car accident or to suicide, on and on and on, to old age, it is a gift that we can give ourselves, because I know I will not win that game. And so as I start traveling down the what if, should have, could have, I will consciously make a choice, and I will say no. I will say, I've started different mantras, and one that I use frequently is, instead of doing what if, I will say, Gary, I am so grateful that I got the opportunity to love you in this life and feel your love.
Beautiful. And do you feel, excuse me, there's a lot of talk about, and I even teach, that we have soul agreements with people, and we discuss these exit points before the lifetime begins. Even as I say that, you know, I'm kind of thinking, like, really, Michelle, and this is the human mind, did you agree to this experience? What are your thoughts and feelings about that?
Yeah. Well, I would honestly just like to say, hell no, I did not agree to this, Sue. Who would?
I know.
Who would agree
Right.
to this level of trauma and loss? Like,
right.
But with the higher awareness and the higher knowing that I have and that you have and that is available to all of us, no matter where we are on this planet, I would have to tell you that I believe on a soul level, I probably did. And I believe that it probably went something like this. He said to me, I will love you like you have never been loved before. And I said to him, and I will love you like you have never been loved before. And he said, and I'll stay longer to love you in that way. But just so you know, it's going to hurt like hell when I leave. And I said, it will be worth it to feel that love.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
And now I'm kicking myself because that was a terrible agreement.
Yeah, I know. I've had so
Right.
many of those in my life.
Right. But I think when we're talking about processing coming to planet Earth, right, on a soul level, number one, we know this life is just the blink of an eye. But the other thing is that part of being on this planet is feeling love. And so in those deep, deep, dark moments, which honestly come over me a million times a day, I have to go back to the fact that in my whole life, I had never felt loved like that before. And maybe I won't again. But the fact that I got to have it in this lifetime, what a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about this, but we have many soul agreements in a lifetime and many different partners that we've made soul agreements with. And even with me, with Paul, my first husband who died when I was 29, that was an intense love that I've never experienced with anyone. And I'm not saying anything negative about my beautiful husband, Gene, because I adore him. And we've raised two incredible kids and we have a wonderful life and a wonderful love. But each soul loves another soul in a different way. And the way that Paul loved me back then was so pure and unconditional. And he could only be in my life a few years and then exit, because I've asked him since, like, why couldn't we have at least had a decade? Why couldn't I have had a child with you? And his answer in spirit has always been, we agreed that I would stay the right amount of time that you would be able to pick up and carry on after I left. And I know for me, the way I loved Paul, it couldn't have been a decade, because I don't think I could have gotten out of bed after that, and do you feel it's kind of similar, like you agreed to experience that pure love, but it was going to have to be in a shorter amount of time on Earth?
Absolutely. Big love, small time, right?
Yeah.
And much like you, I feel the same way. Could I, in my mind, that was going to continue for decades. And I was so excited looking forward to that. Would I have been able to function after decades of that? Would I have been able to carry on and help other people navigate their pain and their grief and the mediumship gifts and all of that? I don't know that I would, because it is so challenging as it is now.
You bring up such a beautiful point that our souls agree to, if it's true that our souls agree to these heartbreaks before the lifetime, and I'm a pure believer in that myself. I believe that the purpose of it is so that we can turn around and help others. And it's the only reason we stay here on Earth after all these heartbreaks and near-death experiences and all of this. The only reason we would ever stay and come back is so that we can turn around and help all of humanity wake up to this higher understanding that we are souls, we are divine beings, and that these lifetimes are short little blips in the physical world, and that we hang out in the divine realms planning all of this from a place of soul awareness, not the human monkey mind, but the soul awareness of it. And, that even brings me to how beautiful your work is, because I was so blessed that when we got back from the conference, I got to see you. You were doing a group reading the next weekend, and I got to attend. And anybody who has never seen Michelle Clare work, you really should go to one of her events, because she works with every single person in a way that I've never seen a traditional medium work. And I just loved it. It felt so on purpose, so intentional, and so incredibly helpful and healing for everyone in that room, even me, as you came around to me. And I'll just tell the listeners, usually when you go to a medium doing a group reading, the medium is just all about the spirits coming through and then trying to figure out who they belong to in the audience. And usually not everybody gets a reading, and not many people in the room actually get that experience. But for Michelle, she went up to every single person in the room and said, you know, how can I help you? What is your focus? And was able to channel in exactly what they needed. And it was so beautiful, Michelle. I just loved every minute of being in the room with that.
Oh,
So
thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
It's, it's such an honor, Sue, to be able to hold the space for people that you and I hold. And what and all people who hold space for others, right? No matter what that looks like, whether you're literally at your friend's house hugging them as they cry, or holding space in mediumship or numerology or whatever it is, that is part of the gift of why we are here.
It is definitely. And then, you know, for me, when I do numerology, you and I have laughed about this a lot, but I go into a room or a class thinking, I'm not going to give everybody a reading, you know, and forget it. You know, there's just a part of me that's not going to let a single person in that room not have an experience of remembering their soul mission and their reinvention points. And then talking about our friendship, I just want to say that I really believe in soul agreements and the timing of soul agreements. And what I mean by that is there are certain people you've loved for many, many lifetimes, but you decide that, you know, you want to save that relationship for a later point in a lifetime because you know you have a lot of growth to get through, a lot of evolution, and that when you're ready will be this time later in your life where you will finally be able to find that person again. And I feel so much that way about you because, you know, you sat down in that chair to tell me your story. And for the rest of the 3-day conference, you were in my heart so deeply, and we laughed our butts off. I mean, people think, oh, you know, you guys were talking about death and grieving and near-death experiences, and I was speaking about shared death experiences and all that. But souls who love each other bring laughter, which is the most healing thing. I believe laughter is the vibration of God consciousness. And so the way that we were able to start laughing together from the first minute, it's just such a blessing. And I'm so grateful to know you again and have you back in my life for this lifetime.
Oh, I felt exactly the same way. And one little note, if I can share this, when we were in the airport, we were getting ready to head home, and Sue was in the other line for security check, and I went to a different one. And as I was walking past her, Sue says, gosh, what did you say? You said, oh, I'll see you at the end. And the minute you said that to me, I totally had this memory of you saying that to me before we came to life. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is happening now. It almost overwhelmed me. This is happening now.
I have chills right now. Again, as you say it, I have chills from head to toe. Because I know that, yes, we said, look, we got to go through a lot of stuff in these lifetimes, you know, so let's wait until the timing. And I think, and you even said this, that you think it was after Gary would exit that we would find each other again.
Absolutely. Because you had said, wait, it's then
right.
who,
I said,
right?
Wait, is this the end? The end for who?
and I really felt like that. It really was like, no, I felt like there was a soul agreement between the three of us. And Gary said, hey, when I leave, she's going to need you, Sue. And you said, I'll see you at the end.
Right.
And the other side note about this that I love, and I haven't shared this with you yet, Gary always wrote me, I'll love you forever. And in so many texts and cards you have sent me in the short time we've known each other, you sign it, I'll love you forever. And it just confirms over and over. By the way, I'll love you forever too. Over and over again to me about this beautiful soul agreement that we had.
And, you know, Gary, he's come through me from the moment you and I started talking, and, you know, in our first meeting at the conference. And I never knew Gary on earth. I never knew him in his physical body, but it's almost like he's my brother from another life, because it won't leave me alone. He makes me do things like text you early in the morning or call you, and then he's joking about it and making me laugh, you know. And it's like, come on, Gary, get your own cell phone, you know.
Right.
And then it turns out that the things that I text you or say to you or write to you are things that he would say. And also in those conversations we were having at the conference, vacillating between feeling the great love that he has for you coming through, and then us asking why, I did feel that he gave us as good of an answer as anyone can give, that it had nothing to do with you, and that it was his inability to stay for his own reasons of healing and pain and everything that was going on in his lifetimes. And he made that so clear to me to keep sharing that with you, so you would never go down that rabbit hole of, should I have done something different? What did I do wrong? He knows that you loved him with the purest, best ever love. And he gave you the best ever love he's ever been able to give anyone. And that's all for now. That's all he could do. Just gives me chills again.
Yeah, me too. And in that moment of my humanness saying, I want more, it wasn't enough, I make that conscious choice to say, I'm so grateful that I got to feel that love and be a part of it. And I'm so grateful to you for being a part of it and continuing to share it with me.
I mean, we were joking so much at the airport and the conference, and I'd say, quit, you can't help me with my backpack. I'll have to marry you or something, and people were walking by us wondering why these two girls with these huge, enormous suitcases were laughing so hard. It looked like I was about to pee in my pants, And, Gary was right there as part of it, absolutely making us crack up and being a part of that. So thank you, Gary. And I just think this conversation is going to be so helpful to anyone. I mean, not only have you had the 3 near-death experiences that really prove there is no death and that we all come back for a reason and that God is love. And when we cross over, it's a pure love realm. But then you have this experience of Gary's exit, so that you can show people this is a different way to look at grief from suicide, because our culture has such a negative understanding of suicide and such a negative understanding of how you move forward from it. And here you are, such a powerful divine being, a master soul 11. You agreed to do this and bring that message to people, especially moms, because we work so much with moms whose children have taken their life, to help them see it in a very different way. And it's not this, I even hesitate to say it this way because it might be misinterpreted, but it's not the tragedy the way the human mind wants to make it. It's more of a soul agreement. And when we can lift up to a place of being able to even consider that that is a possibility, so much healing lives in that new perspective.
Absolutely. And I've really tried to embrace this in the sense that the expiration date was the expiration date.
That's it. It's, one other thing I'll add is I've read recently from other channelers and mystics and spiritual teachers that we all know we're in a big consciousness shift on the planet right now.
Yes.
But that people are choosing whether they're going to leave their body, go to the divine to help from there, or if they're going to stay here and help from here. Well, I know that Gary, really said, I'm going to help from the divine realms. And I also know that you and I, for whatever stubborn reason, have decided that we're going to stay for this shift and we're going to work from here. Like, pretty crazy decision, but that's what we made.
Yeah, boots on the ground. Here we are, Sue.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
I just want to say that no matter what anyone is going through, we do have free will. And very often that's just our perspective on how we're going to choose to see it. Life happens. And whether it was a soul plan or life happening or whatever these challenges are in our life, we always have that free will perspective of how are we going to see it. And that can be your saving grace, or that can throw you in the ditch, depending on which way you want to use that. But that is our most powerful tool as a human.
Totally agree. We choose the lens that we look at this life through. And the way you can tell if that's your divine lens or your ego lens is by how you feel. If you're happy, if you're thriving, if you're helping others, if you're feeling more connected to God and spirit, then you're using your soul's lens. You're choosing to look at it from that higher way. And if you're wrapped in fear and doubt and anger and blame, then the ego is telling you what to do. So we get to choose. That's the great nature of free will on earth. So on that note, thank you, Michelle Clare. And where can people sign up for a session with you?
On my website, michelleclare.net.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Until we meet again, this is Sue Frederick and Michelle Clare. And we love you. We love you. We love you forever.